Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. I'm Trevor Lane. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane, joined by Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA. Lots to talk about around the NBA as usual. And I guess if we have to, we can start with game 3 and the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad way that game ended. Keith, how are you doing?
I like the Alexander reference. Well done. And I've used that in an article a time or 10
Yeah.
when things have gone really poorly. So I like it. I appreciate that. But even if my sentiments lie completely in the opposite direction.
I was talking about Steph Curry's injury. What were you talking
Oh, sure. Sure. Or the awful foul language Celtics fans use.
The awful foul. Oh, the Draymond stuff.
Oh,
That was interesting. Although I thought it was pretty. Like I noticed this when they panned to the crowd. It felt like every crowd shot was the same. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I mean a little bit, I guess. I mean, I all that stuff kind of I am doing so much during games
Yeah.
between tweeting and making notes, and that stuff tends to fly a little bit right by me. I clearly hear it, and then if they point it out, I think Jeff Van Gundy at one point, because it was so loud, was like they're expressing displeasure with Draymond Green or something like that, and then I'll pick up
Oh,
on it. But yeah, you know, I I don't know. Mostly I was amused by the whole thing with Steve Kerr and Klay Thompson saying like real classy,
oh
while
yeah.
simultaneously Draymond Green is at the podium cussing in front of his son. Like
Right.
I was just like, what are we doing here? But it's whatever, it is what it is. That's just dumb. But you want to talk about the actual game itself?
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't make too much of it or anything like that. Again, when they were showing the crowd, you saw everybody kind of saying what they were saying and doing what they were doing. But whatever. Part of that, Draymond brings it on himself. So
Yeah.
yeah, with the things that
Yeah.
he says and things he does and all that. So the game itself, it was interesting the way the game played out because you saw essentially it was kind of like game 1 where the Warriors made their push and then the Celtics said no, this time we're not going to fall apart. Game 2, the Warriors made their push and the Celtics went, oh my gosh, we're falling to pieces. And then game 3 was they make their push in the third, and it's like it all comes down to how do the Celtics respond to the inevitable push the Warriors make. If they panic and freak out, they lose the game. If they keep their wits about them, they win. That's a total oversimplification based on all the different strategies that are going into the game, but that's just the big picture feeling that I'm getting from these games.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't know how much of an oversimplification it really even is. I think that's a pretty good summary. It's yeah, the first halves have been played very evenly by both sides. Basically, we're getting a halftime with the games right there in range for either team. Third quarter, Golden State comes out and they kick Boston's tail all over the place. The one difference was the Celtics in game 3 versus game 2 or even game 1, they kind of rallied towards the end of the third quarter, towards the back half, and then they were able to keep control of things. And then that allowed them, when they got into the fourth quarter, they weren't having to fight back and play great. But the Warriors, again, in the fourth quarter, played terribly. I think they were 5 of 15 from the field. They were 1 of 9 from 3, and they had 8 turnovers in the fourth quarter. Some of that was their own sloppiness, but a lot of that was the Celtics' defensive pressure. And I'm curious to see, as a I'm going to say relatively neutral observer, and I know your rooting lies in one direction, but does it seem like Golden State's a little worn down? Like last night, did it seem like they were tired?
It reminds me a lot of the Lakers in terms of when LeBron goes off the floor, everything falls to pieces. The Warriors are like
Yeah.
that with Steph right now, where there's nothing like any minute that Steph is off the floor is too much. They
Yep.
can't maintain anything when he's off the floor, and part of that might be fatigue. Part of that might be you're not getting a lot out of Draymond. Again, he was terrible game 1, terrible game 3. You're not getting the kind of impact that you needed out of him, even on a night when Steph and Klay both shot pretty well and did what they needed to do. You needed more from him, and so that's creating a lack of sustainability whenever Steph is off the floor. You just run into problems. And then, of course, Jordan Poole, I thought he was okay in this one, but in general, they suddenly feel kind of thin. The roster does for the Warriors, and I don't know how much of that is fatigue, how much of that is the big stage with young players, how much of that is just the Celtics defense. It's probably all things combined. But yes, it does feel like they're a little bit run ragged, a little bit beat up, and now, of course, all eyes are on Steph Curry's ankle.
Yeah, and no, he did his media availability earlier today. It wasn't exactly, confidence inspiring, I guess, because he said, "I'm good enough to play." Like that's not what you want to hear. Like I feel great. Like I'm okay. Like I'll be out there. No issues. It was I'm good enough to play. And then you could tell he was getting very. I mean, he must have been asked 10 questions about it in all sorts of different ways. Rank it on the pain scale and what's it like compared to last time and all these things. And you could tell he was getting aggravated by the end. But I thought what was a little telling was he said, "Now that I've been through it once, I know what I'm dealing with and I know how to handle it. Then I'm going to be good enough to play." And that's concerning because you're absolutely right. One is, let me say this right out. This is the first time I've actively watched a series and had like an interest in it beyond just loving basketball.
Mm-hmm.
He is absolutely terrifying to, you see it 4 times a year a lot, right? Like this, the Celtics guy, it's twice a year. And obviously I watch him a whole bunch of other times, but with a true interest in the outcome of the game, it's twice a year. And if he misses one, then it might only be once. Sometimes a couple of years, I think it's been none. But man, he is just, it's like he hits half court and you're instantly on edge because you're like, you might pull up. Oh, they're coming up to set a screen right next to the logo. Like he's going to come off this.
He's going to shoot it.
And you just don't know what to do, right? You get so like, kind of almost frazzled as a fan. Like I can imagine what the players are like on that. But so a couple things. One is here, I hope he's healthy and can play. And get it. It's easier for the Celtics if he doesn't. I don't care.
Oh, if he's not, the series is over.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
done.
exactly
that's it. If he's not 100%, it's over.
Yeah, you're right on it. If he cannot be Stephen Curry dominant 30-point guy attracting all the defense, it's done. Yeah. They just don't have enough else. They might get another game, sure, because you could have Clay score 40. Sure. I'll go back to one other thing you said too. It is a little concerning if I was a Warriors fan. We got the Curry and Clay game and we still lost. Draymond was awful. The bench was kind of not very good, but Andrew Wiggins was okay. He seeded some shots, I thought, more than anything, because Clay had it going a little bit. But that's concerning to me, is we were there and we still lost and still had that terrible fourth quarter. So it's funny because I've been asked a lot today throughout the course of the day, am I confident in the Celtics and that they're going to win the championship? And my answer is no. I mean, it's still, they're up 2-1. They're not up 3-1, and even then I'd be a little more concerned. But, I mean, being up 2-1, I feel as confident as you possibly can in what it is, but they lose this next one. We're right back to a brand new series. So, they got to get this win in game 4.
It looked like a mismatch in terms of physicality in this game, in game 3, where, and you can see it in the numbers. I mean, the offensive rebounds were 15-6 in favor of the Celtics. So that was obviously something that was a factor. Then turnovers also went in their favor. 16 turnovers for the Warriors compared to just 12 to the Celtics. Those things can't happen in game 4 if the Warriors are going to get a win and even this series and prolong this and give us more basketball. But again, if the Celtics win game 4, that's probably it. And if Steph Curry, there's a lot of ifs that if one little thing happens, the series is done, right? If Steph's ankle is hurting, the series is done. If the Celtics win game 4, the series is done, right? If Draymond doesn't come back around, the series is done. And all of that is pretty much on the side of the Celtics right now. So I would have them as the massively heavy favorites to win this thing at this point. Again, they were the favorites coming into it based on the advanced projections and things, not the betting odds, but that's a different world. So I would be surprised if we didn't come to that result at this point because of all of everything right now is pointing towards Boston at this moment. But again, in the finals, sometimes we can react to each individual game and Warriors winning Game 4 would change a lot. Could shift the whole momentum of the series, because that's the way 7-game series go. Every game can shift what seems to be the trajectory or the path that you're on.
This has been Trevor reverse jinxing and hedging quite well. So we appreciate that.
How did I reverse jinx what?
Because you're talking up the Celtics too much, man. I know. I get it. I see where you're going with this. You're hoping.
Wouldn't you agree that right now the Warriors have a lot more things that would happen to their undoing than the Celtics do?
Yes, I agree. I don't know about overwhelming and all that, but yes, I do think they have way more questions to answer than Boston does. I think they have a lot of personnel questions. Steve Kerr is clearly searching. He's searching for a 6th, 7th, 8th guy that he can just buy some minutes with. The single biggest difference, I think, between this Warriors version and the Dynasty Warriors, if we will, is that group didn't have the attack points on both ends of the floor, meaning they didn't play so many one-way guys. Yeah. This group now, because Clay has slipped enough defensively due to the injuries, to be fair. Curry, he's not an awful defender like people make him out to be, but he's still not very good. Jordan Poole is just, God, he's a turnstile, traffic cone, chair, whatever non-inanimate object that the defense, put it in there. And then, Bielitsa, come on. Like, that was, those minutes were a disaster. So it just really feels like it's, there's places. And then on the offensive end, there's clips flying around. I even used some of them in my takeaways for Celtics blog today. Boston is like, Draymond, you want to shoot? Have at it. We're going to treat you like, a worse version of Ben Simmons. And there are Celtics fans who are very concerned because they're playing drop coverage against Steph Curry. But part of why they're doing that is they don't want to get put in the spin cycle, where it turns into, all right, we're going into a whole bunch of actions and we're having to scramble and recover, and we might be giving up layups. They're willing to live with, all right, he can take a whole bunch of threes, but, if he gets hot, which he did, then they started pressing up and started taking those away a little bit, and Steph didn't do much in the fourth quarter before he got hurt. So, yeah, we'll see. But, this has been a fun series so far, at least, back and forth with adjustments and changing in personnel. I think Ime Udoka made the right call, bench Daniel Tice completely. This is going to be, a fun game 4, because I think you're right. I'm not going to go as far as saying it decides the series if the Warriors win, because I'd still think the Celtics can still win it.
It decides the series if the Celtics win.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
If Boston,
it's a risk. It's not. I don't want to say risk-free, because it's not. There's still a lot on this game for the Celtics, and they're not. I don't know what phrase I want to use, but for the Warriors, the end of the series is on the line in Game 4, and that's not true of the Celtics.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think too. And when I picked Celtics in 6 going into the series, the path I kind of thought was get one of the first 2 in San Francisco, win the 2 at home, then Game 5, if you lose it, you're coming back home to close it out. It's a different format, right? Because when I think about when the Celtics and Lakers played in 2008, it was still the 2-3-2 format, but Boston got up 3-1. The Lakers killed them in Game 5. I think sneaky key to that win for Boston was Doc Rivers basically benched everybody very early in the fourth quarter of that game and said, just, go. You got to, who cares if you win by 50? We're, going to be up 3-2 heading home. And then they turned it the other way in Game 6. And I can almost see this one maybe going that way. But the key would be you got to win this one. You got to win Game 4.
Yeah, a lot riding on Game 4 on this one. All right, let's move into some news. The Jazz willing to listen on trades for Rudy Gobert, but not so Donovan Mitchell. That's pretty consistent with what we've been hearing, that they would consider moving him. Of course, Rudy Gobert's contract is something that teams will have to factor in. 4 more years, max deal. That's some teams won't be willing to pay that, but still very very high impact player. There's going to be suitors out there. It feels more like we're going to push towards a Gobert trade being executed here this summer. Maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are both on the Jazz next season. But this franchise, the coach changing over, it feels like there's more change coming to this team.
Yeah, you know better than anybody how I feel about this stuff when there's a lot of smoke. I tend to be like, all right, there's something here. We're hearing, I mean, it's now getting to be just about every day. We're hearing something about Gobert.
Yep.
Part of that is, I mean, whether you put it on him or the people who work for him, Danny Ainge doesn't exactly always keep things closest to the vest. I will say, though, when he does make moves, they generally tend to come a little out of nowhere. So Gobert to Chicago, the Vucevic stuff that we've heard, I don't know about all that. But it wouldn't be a surprise at all if he gets moved. It wouldn't shock me if there's some different team that jumps in on him that we haven't heard even a word about, and says, hey, yeah, we think he's the guy here. I do think, though, it's going to be important if you trade him. It can't be for like a rebuilding package because you still got Mitchell, so you're trying to still be competitive and keep him happy too. So, we'll see. But I think you're right. I think we're getting more change than just coaching staff. Man, they talk about a wide net too. I think we're up to like 12, 13, or 14 different coaches that have been mentioned, which is right. That's the way to do it. You're kind of only sort of competing with the Hornets maybe at this point. So, why not? I do wonder if they would have, would have liked to have had an answer a little earlier. Maybe could have gone Darvin Ham. But, it is what it is. And now, there's still a lot of great candidates out there.
Sure. Yeah, there's plenty of candidates out there that are options, and we'll see who they ultimately land on. But again, now you have maybe even a little bit more pressure on the Hornets to come to a conclusion with their search as well, because now there's another team, another landing spot for a coach that's out there.
Even that the Hornets are closing in, right? That all indications are they'll have a decision here probably within the next couple of days.
Right. I've been talking a little bit about Summer League, so let's jump to Las Vegas. Today I've been working on some Summer League stuff. LeBron wants to own a team in Las Vegas. I should say billionaire LeBron wants to own a team in Las Vegas.
Yeah, hold on, let's pause there for a second.
Right.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, active player and he's a billionaire. Like, come on, man. Like, big congrats there on that one. Like, that's awesome.
That's, absolutely incredible. Again, unprecedented for this league. So that's amazing. And look, we've talked about it. Vegas is a great spot for a team. I think it's going to happen. Will LeBron be an owner of that team? I don't know, but that's a great goal for him. And I think it's an attainable one. And to me, putting a team in Vegas is a no-brainer, just like putting a team in Seattle. I think expansion's coming. We're going to see it. And it wouldn't shock me at all if we get. Would he name the team after himself, like the Las Vegas LeBrons?
Oh God,
they can't be the Kings, the Las Vegas chosen ones.
No, please, no. No. Come up with something better. Is there like someone will come up with? What I like? I like the Las Vegas Vipers.
I like that one. I do like that.
I like alliteration.
So you lose the loss and just do Vegas Vipers?
That could be fun too. Yeah, that could be kind of fun. Yeah. What I'm starting to wonder is there going to be something? You can't be there's no such thing as a player coach anymore. It violates the CBA. There's then obviously no such thing as a player owner. There's no Jackie Moons here or anything like that. But I think what I would wonder is this one of those things where everybody knows he's going to own the team, but the team comes in to being, and then maybe his last year, it's him and his son playing for Las Vegas whatevers. And that's kind of, not that there wouldn't be enough interest anyway, but that really draws significant interest to the team. And that's how he gets them lifted. Because I think he has a little bit of the ability to do that. Had he never left the Cavs or didn't leave the Cavs the second time, it would feel a little odd, right? To like, oh man, you got to finish your career there. But now he's played for 3 different franchises and one of them twice. So I think if you kind of finished it out and then of course then transition, into ownership at some point, kind of sort of what MJ did with the Wizards, right? Where he was a part owner, I think, of the Wizards for a little bit. Then he came back and played and then left. I could see it go that way with LeBron. I will say, too, he said this. This isn't a report. This is nothing. He said this on the Uninterrupted, the shop
Yeah.
Right. He that's where he came out. He directly said, I want to own a team. I want to own the team in Vegas. I want the team in Vegas. So this isn't anybody, no one's reporting this. There's no one speculating here. He directly said this. So that leads a lot more credence to it than, just a random report.
Well, and he said this too, like keeping in mind that Vegas is not that far from LA.
Correct.
Right. So if he's based in LA, it just makes all kinds of sense for him to go this route. So it'd be cool to see it happen.
And personally, I'm with you too. Got to be Seattle first.
Yep.
And then Vegas, tilt the league, get them 2 more West teams, rebalance things a little bit, figure out how whether it's Memphis, Minnesota, whoever, blow the whole thing up and redo all the divisions, conferences some way, one way or another. Like, I'm fine with all of that. Like, well, that can all get sorted, but yeah, get 2 more teams out there. It's as an East Coast fan who watches games in that 10 and 10:30 window, it sucks sometimes when there's only like 2 good West Coast teams, because then you get stuck. I can't tell you how many Kings and in dry Lakers years, those were the only games on in the middle of the night, and it's like, come on, like this is what I'm doing.
Usually, I just see East Coast fans complaining that the games are on so late.
Yeah,
but
the finals is past 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. local start times. That's crazy. I get why they do it, but that's even the Warriors guys are like, this sucks. Like, you're all out of rhythm. This is not right. These guys prepare to generally play at 7 or 7:30 or 8 o'clock, right, local time, and then you push it back to 9, which is really closer to like a 9-10 tip. But yeah, that's a whole. We don't have enough time.
That's a whole other rabbit hole. Don't sound the siren, but
no.
Ben Simmons rehabbing post
surgery is retired.
That's
not coming back.
So he is rehabbing right now. Sounds like he will be ready for the start of the regular season. What will that look like? We don't know, but I just hope he's healthy. I mean, look, he missed the entire season. He's one of, when he's out there, I know people have a lot of negative things to say, but when he's healthy, he is one of the young stars in the NBA. And so just like Zion, I would like to see him out there and healthy and see what Ben Simmons and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, what that looks like out on the floor together, and if they can make that work. So I hope he heals up and can be 100% and get everything set and be out there come October.
Yeah, if Ben Simmons fails with the Brooklyn Nets, I want it to be Ben Simmons, basketball player, fails with the Brooklyn Nets, not any other reasons. I want it to be, he's healthy, physically with his back, he's mentally healthy, he's ready to go. It's we all had a lot to say for months and months and months, and some of it for me still holds true. Like we'll see what happens with his grievance and all the stuff and arbitration that's going on with him getting paid, not getting paid. But yeah, it's no more. Like that's done now. I want to see him play ball.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Myles Turner, one of the names that's been out there on the trade market for a year now, not longer. Myles Turner, it looks like the Pacers are probably going to keep him around. There was a point at the trade deadline when we thought Myles Turner was the guy who was going to get moved by the Pacers, and instead it wound up being Domantas Sabonis, and now it looks like Turner might just be in Pawnee long-term. Now he's only got 1 more year under contract, but they're not trying to move him this offseason. Looks like they do want to hang on to him and see what they can do with him next season, and then whatever pieces they add in via the draft, via free agency, via trade, all of that doesn't look like Myles Turner is a piece that they now feel like they need to move on from.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense, right? If you're the Pacers, you're looking to flip this thing quickly, get right back into contention. And I think what they're looking at is, all right, we've got Turner, Halliburton, healed. We'll see what happens with Brogdon. Probably sounds like he may be moved in a trade. We've got a bunch of cap space. We've got a good high draft pick. I think they're thinking much like Portland is and a couple others. Let's flip this thing very quickly, get right back into being a playoff team again. And my guess is they're looking at it as Turner is a guy who helps us get there versus, well, we already got this other guy like Brogdon, good player, but now you have Halliburton. That's overlap. You don't need that, and they're not necessarily the best fit to play with each other a ton. So I'm fully there with this for the Pacers. I think it's right. And then, as you said, $18 million expiring contract. That's still very, very easily movable when we get to the trade deadline if things aren't going the way you want it to go.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's something that they can definitely move later on. So we'll see. Looks like Myles Turner probably stays put unless something pops up that they can't resist. The Suns had a COVID outbreak during the playoffs. Could that be part of the reason why we saw the team perform so poorly in that game 7? I mean, no, we've seen it's mostly been team personnel. It wasn't a player issue.
Yeah,
But
one
still,
player.
this is something that's noteworthy because it wasn't widely reported at the time, and for that to hit a team, it's concerning, but also like what 6 months before this, everybody would have been hearing all about this, and there would have been big alarms going off everywhere. It happened, and not much really came of it when at the time.
Yeah, without needing to put up flashing lights and sirens and everything. COVID is not the flu, so let me start with that. But that's kind of where we're at now in terms of treating this in the NBA. This isn't really all that different from having a big flu outbreak. Suns are fully vaccinated. It sounds like all personnel are vaccinated. So it's just it's unfortunate. It's crappy timing, but it kind of is what it is, and this is it. So it's I don't. There was a lot of so that's why they lost by so much to Dallas. I don't know that that's why they lost by so much. I'm sure it was an influencing factor. Like I'm not gonna say it wasn't, but yeah, I don't think it was that quite answers all those questions. I think the Mavs played great, the Suns didn't, and that's the extent of it.
Agreed. Yeah, I think wasn't a COVID situation that led the Suns to look lethargic in Game 7, the biggest game of their season. All right, I saved the best for last for our wheelhouse here. CBA talks. They're already starting. Let's go. This is what we want, Keith. We want CBA talks to start right now so that when time comes, you get this thing done and we don't have to deal with the whole, is there going to be a work stoppage, all that kind of stuff. Let's keep this ship sailing on, I should say, and get this thing all figured out. I think it makes sense for both sides to start the discussions now. I think there's incentive for both sides to keep this train moving. But again, I think it's a good thing that these preliminary talks are happening. Both sides are going to want things. There's going to be negotiations. That's going to happen. There's going to be points where we hear about contention and things like that. But it's a good sign that they're already trying to get ahead of things and say, look, let's get this process started now. Let's not ruin a bad thing. And let's get this sorted out sooner rather than later.
Yep. Our last experience. So, let me start first is with a little bit of timeline on this. Both sides can opt out of the current CBA this December. If either side does, then they opt out. Doesn't impact this upcoming season, the 22-23 season. That would get played out. But if there's not a labor agreement, if somebody opts out, 2023, we have likely a lockout versus a strike. It's lockouts generally tend to be the way these go. As far as most people are concerned, it's a work stoppage. That's all you really care about.
Yeah, correct.
And we wouldn't have free agency and blah, blah, blah. But if we go back to 2017, what they did in that situation after they opted out of the deal, they did these early talks. Then they negotiated everything well in advance. And we had almost all the details long before they needed to be. Running up against anything, we saw no form of stoppage, nothing. Everybody flowed. We were right into it. You're absolutely right. We'll have some stuff that needs to be addressed. The owners are for sure going to want to address I'm not feeling good, so I don't want to play because I want to trade stuff. That's going to need to be addressed. There's going to be stuff around, hey, are some of these extensions too restrictive, not restrictive enough? What about free agency? Those kind of things. The big things, though, the revenue split, the how much money people make, how much the players get versus the owners get, those you're not hearing really any, it's got to be more. We got to change that whole model. That's great news. Because all the rest of this stuff, it sounds weird because it's really important. For our purposes, it'll be way more important, right? Because it's going to give us
details, though.
Goodies. But that's it. They're details. They're small potatoes in this big, overall stew here of the CBA. So it is, the big meaty chunks. That's the money, and that part people aren't really complaining about too much. So that I feel very optimistic. We're going to be just fine. Plus, both sides worked through the pandemic. They're not like knock on wood, whatever, salt over the shoulder, whatever we need to do. Hopefully, we don't have anything like that again.
Yeah.
And then they'll be, we'll watch them move forward, from there. So I'm very optimistic for where, things are going to go with these CBA talks.
Yeah, I think this is a great sign, and hopefully this is just, I'm okay. Best case scenario, there's a few tweaks that give us something to sink our teeth into,
Yep.
but other than that, we just continue moving on. They sign this thing, get it done, and we move forward, continuing to play basketball.
Absolutely, a lot of money at stake. As one of my favorite sayings is, I'd rather have half a watermelon than a whole grape.
If you could change anything in the CBA, and I guess it depends on what perspective you're looking at it from, whether it's the ownership side or the player side, but what do you think needs to be changed the most right now?
I would like when you're on the 10-year max contract, so the 35% max, without changing the money, overall total money. So let's just say it's 5 years, $250 million. Making that's not what it would be, but let's say that's what it is. I would like to see them be able to flip that so that you take the bigger hits in year one, and then it goes down. You can't do that because you can't front load a contract off a max and go down. From you can, but the player would lose too much money that way. You can't go above their single year max. That's the only circumstance I would want them to be able to do that, because then that way, James Harden, for example, maybe you feel a little bit better if I'm not paying him $60 million in year 5, but I'm paying that in year 1, and that goes down to $42 million in year 5, or whatever it goes up.
Yes.
That. Exactly. So the contracts and the cap are going like this, right? They're going opposite each other. That's what I would like to see happen, ultimately with that, because I think that is, something there, and I don't think that hurts anybody, because the player's still getting the same amount of money. It actually frees up player movement, makes it better for the teams. So that's a change I would like to see.
Yeah, I like that. That would be a good one. I wouldn't mind seeing some sort of a tweak to restricted free agency as well. I know they already cut down, how long teams have to respond and everything. But it feels like when you look at free agency, the restricted free agents are put in such a difficult spot where teams won't even talk to them. Teams won't even bother offering them a contract. And that kind of makes them stuck. So some sort of a tweak to restricted free agency to give a little bit more power to the hands of the players. Not a lot, because I understand that the teams need to have that kind of security as well. But some sort of a little tweak there to give the players a little bit more leverage in that situation, because we're seeing a lot of times where teams won't even bother with the restricted free agents. And I don't think that's really the intention behind it, is to leave the player without any real options out there.
Yeah, and it rarely ends up hurting the very best players.
Yeah.
But who it does hurt is kind of the Colin Sextons of the world.
Yep.
Yeah, that kind of middle class guy where it's like, well, they're just going to match anything reasonable, and anything that's not reasonable, we've hurt ourselves because we had to make an offer we don't feel good about.
Yeah, exactly. So something there, and that would be a tweak I'd like to see. But again, big picture, get this thing done, and let's keep playing basketball.
Yep.
All right, that's everything for today. We got through it. A lot of stuff here, but exciting time of the NBA. Again, the off season, it's almost here. We're counting down the days till the off season begins. I know you're not. Everybody, we are. We're counting down the days till officially the off season is here. There's going to be a lot going on. We've got the draft, of course. We've got free agency. We're getting the trade market. We've been saying this is going to be the summer of the trade because there's not much out there on the free agent market. So exciting time. Make sure you guys do subscribe to the NBA Front Office YouTube channel. Ring that notification bell. Keith, we made it. Another day, and I can't wait to see what tomorrow brings.
Hey, we got to do 2 things real quick. Otherwise, people are going to be really mad. The first one, Hustle, was actually pretty good. The Adam Sandler movie. I enjoyed it. Having people play basketball players that can play basketball, what a massive difference it makes.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually, all the basketball scenes are relatively believable. There's a few parts in there where it's a little like, all right, come on, what are we doing? But not bad. But did you watch Ms. Marvel yet?
So I've watched the first 10 minutes. So I read the reviews on it, and everything was like, this is a very PG show. I went, cool. Sat my daughter down, and she was like, when does she become Miss Marvel? And I said, well, I'm sure it's coming later. I said, why, are you bored? She goes, yeah. I said, okay, we don't have to watch that.
She might be a little young.
Yeah, I'll watch. I will watch it later, but I tried watching some of it today with her, and it did not hit.
Our 12-year-old loved it. Like
Okay.
she's super into like high school drama stuff right now and all that. So she liked that part of it. She's just like her dad. She loves Marvel. So yeah, we were pretty into it. So all right, we'll look forward to a more full spoiler free thoughts on tomorrow's show.
That's right. That's right. I'll dig into it. I'll dig into it later. All right, everybody. Appreciate you for joining us. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.